Before we go any further in Module 5, I wanted to share two tools, one of which is, I would say, more of a theory than a tool, that might be helpful when and if you're working with teachers that are either slightly or a lot less reflective than Jenny Kritzer. I mean, I would say from the observation and from the article that Cuban wrote about the observation and their interactions with Jenny that she is obviously a very self-motivated and reflective teacher. However, the reality is that in any profession, in any walk of life, not everyone is as motivated and reflective as Jenny is. And a lot of you asked in Module 3, sort of, yeah, this is all fine and good, but how do I motivate people to participate? How do I get buy-in? How do I deal with teachers that don't know what they don't know, or they're not reflective about practice and either don't want to change or they're not aware of what they might need to change, or even that there is a need for it. So I wanted us to have a chance to explore that a little bit before we continue, what we might do and how we might proceed with folks that aren't as reflective as Jenny. And dealing with that, I think, is a module in and of itself, and we don't have time to go in as much depth with that as I would like, but I want us to look quickly at the Conscience Competence Learning Matrix. And this is something you may have heard of before, applied to the education profession. It didn't initiate in education, but this theory or model is attributed to several different sources, but one of them is Martin Broadwell in 1969. And there are two axes on this matrix. So there's the idea that you are either competent or incompetent, and the other axis deals with awareness, your consciousness of it. So you're either unconscious or conscious. So if you are, we'll start with unconsciously incompetent, which means you don't know what you don't know. So in the case of working with a teacher in an instructional engineering environment, perhaps this teacher is unaware of the fact that there are things in their practice that could be improved. Then this matrix progresses to being consciously incompetent. There are still difficulties or changes that need to be made to practice, but you are now aware of those. So you could look at that STEM P set and identify areas that you either need to improve upon or would like to improve upon. Then we move to consciously competent, meaning you're aware. Now I feel like this is sort of more where Jenny fits. You're aware that there are strengths that you have. You're also aware of those things. So maybe you're kind of in between, a 2 and a 3. And I think this is very much dependent on specific skills sometimes. You know what you know, and you know what you don't know. And then moving to unconsciously competent. So these are folks that maybe once you've been doing something for such a long time, you kind of have a hard time either putting it into words, so you have a hard time articulating how you do something well. You may have seen teachers do this before. They're so good at either everything or some particular thing, and you ask them, how in the world do you do that? And they have a hard time putting into words what it is that they do, or even they have a hard time understanding, what do you mean? How is it that I'm so good at this thing? What are you talking about? So that's the idea of unconscious competence, that you don't know what you know. Either because you've been doing it for so long, or it just comes so naturally to you that you have a hard time articulating it. So I'm going to give you a chance to read a short article from a website called Management for the Rest of Us. It kind of gives you an idea of each of these phases, what they might look like, and how you as a coach, and this article kind of focuses on you as a manager, but how you as a coach might help folks move from one stage to another, because I wanted us to just be upfront and honest about the fact that not all the people that you engage with are going to be as motivated as Jenny is, and depending upon your situation, You may or may not have the luxury of working with people that have chosen to work with you. You may be working with people that have been assigned to you. So you're going to need at least some background on kind of identifying where people are on a continuum of self-awareness. All right, so that's one tool. Now, here's another one it's kind of similar, that I used in a training as a participant through Region 13, but this continuum checklist is somewhat similar to conscious competence model, but this helps you rate folks that you're working with, and this is from Annette Brinkman. Brinkman works out of Utah, and she's an educational consultant. And so what you do with this is you think of a person you're currently working with, or you think of someone that you're either coaching now or getting ready to coach, and you rate them kind of yes or no. So you check each statement on this list that applies to the person you're working with, and you can see that they're broken down by club, circle, square, and triangle. And then you come down here to the bottom. Once you've completed this checklist, you tally the number of responses for each one. And I'm going to attach this document to your work in this part of the module. And this kind of gives you an idea based on their score with each shape, which kind of helps you determine what your role should be. So in some cases, if you're working with someone that's pretty unresponsive to your feedback, or pretty unresponsive to the idea of change, perhaps it's best that you mosey on down the road to someone else who is more willing to change, who's more willing to be receptive to ideas and feedback. So this continuum checklist also is I think a tool that you could use if you're having difficulty coaching someone, if you're having difficulty deciding who to work with, if you have a lot of people that you're either assigned to work with or being charged to work with. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to focus and think about these tools and read about these things, and then complete a journal entry to reflect on how you feel about these two tools that help you kind of think about people's self-awareness.